Hello, thank you for joining us today. My name is Mark Shettenholm, and I will be the moderator for the session. I would like to welcome you to the BMC Virtual Exchange in this session on Eliminate Manual Tasks with Automated CI/CD Pipelines for the Mainframe. If you have questions during the presentation, submit them in the Q&A area, and we will answer them during the Q&A portion at the end of the presentation. Now let me introduce Tony Anter. Tony joined BMC in the past year, and his background is working with a large financial company in their DevOps space. So he has a lot of experience in DevOps in the mainframe. So he brings years of experience with DevOps, and he'll be sharing his story. Tony?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mark. I really appreciate it. And welcome to everybody out there at Exchange. I hope everybody's having a fantastic time at Exchange 2022. And I want to talk to you guys about eliminating manual tasks with automated CI/CD on the mainframe. That's a lot to that's a long sentence to say, but hopefully at the end of this, you'll get a feel for the transformation that my old company did and some of the things that I did, as well as have a feel for what that journey will look like on your side. So let's go ahead and dive right in. So my name's Anthony Ancher, or Tony to my friends, and I feel like everybody attending Exchange is my friend. So please call me Tony. That said, I am a DevOps architect and evangelist here at BMC. And like Mark said, I've been here just over a year. And I came in from a Fortune 100 credit card company here in the United States. So from 2014 to 2021, I worked for this company as a director of engineering for CI/CD. I architected and delivered, as part of that, an end-to-end set of pipelines on the distributed side for about 90% of the company's applications. Were using these pipelines to get from development all the way to production. About midway through my tenure there, they came to me and said, we have a two-speed IT problem. We have a problem with the distributed side going one speed and mainframe teams and mainframe systems going another. And as I'm sure everybody on this call knows, the data, the money, the business, the core of every major company resides on the mainframe. Now, I was not a mainframe developer. I was not a systems engineer. I had not really done any mainframe technology. I was a pure distributed full stack Java guy and DevOps. So when they brought this to me, I wasn't quite sure how to move forward with it. I wasn't sure how to approach this on the mainframe. And so when we did this, I'm going to get into more detail as I go, but when I did this, I came into it with the same mentality, the same thought that I had that we did on the distributed side. So we created a set of pipelines, a set of DevOps, a DevOps offering on the mainframe. And the scope of that was around 500 application teams and 3,500 engineers that we trained and moved onto this new DevOps platform within a single year. And what I'm going to do is detail that story. I'm going to go into more detail about how we did this, some of the ways that we approached it, and some of the things that we did given the time. So let's go ahead and start with, where did we begin, right? First things first, is identifying the problem. You have to identify the problem. Why was there two-speed IT going on at my organization? Is the mainframe less sophisticated? Is the mainframe a lesser platform? Was this older technology? The answer to all that was no. The mainframe is not a lesser platform. The mainframe is just like any other platform. With the Z15 and the Z16 and some of the innovations that have come onto the mainframe platform in the last couple, 3-4 years, the mainframe as a platform is just as sophisticated, just as technologically advanced, just as dynamic as any other platform, as the cloud, as most of your web platforms. The platform in and of itself is just another box in your data center. I can't highlight that enough. And as you talk to people, you hear a lot, well, we need to modernize our mainframe. We need to modernize the mainframe. Bring modernization to the mainframe. The mainframe as a platform is modern. I'll repeat it again. The mainframe as a platform is modern. What needs to be improved, what needs to be modernized, is mainframe application development. Mainframe applications. The problem that we saw where I was at were, decades of workarounds and customizations. Each team, in order to be able to push some of these legacy code bases on legacy platforms, had done tons of scaffolding around their systems in order to be able to get some of the capabilities, just a small portion of the capabilities that DevOps brings. You had a lot of complex and manual processes. Everything was, this is the way we've always done it. This is what the standards say. These are the things that we need to do. This made bringing new people onto the platform difficult. In people that were coming out of engineering school and college, you couldn't get new blood onto the platform. Add to that expensive licensing and administration, and you basically had legacy systems that weren't really fitting the needs, that were built not for DevOps, not for agility, not for automation, not for extensibility. You had systems and processes and customizations in place that were rooted in waterfall. In a recent speech I did, I titled a slide, "Don't Go Chasing Waterfalls," after the song. And the truth of it is, don't go chasing waterfall. Waterfall is an old technology. You need to move towards agility, and you need to move toward, and if you're going to make that move, your tooling and your processes and everything has to align to that. So we understood at my place that the tooling and the things that we had were not going to cut it. Just like the picture showed, it was more of a Rube Goldberg machine than it was anything else. So as we sat there, we knew that we were going to have to go in and update our processes, update the tooling, update the underlying systems where application developers were doing their work. And we had to look at this from a realistic point of view. There couldn't be any sacred cows. There couldn't be any golden idols. There couldn't be anything that was untouchable. We had to look at it from the bottom up and look at all of these pieces and say, what's working and what doesn't. So as we sat there, we had to be realistic about identifying our problems and the things that were necessary to correct those problems. So once we sort of mapped out what our architecture was going to be and a lot of the things that we needed to do in order to improve ourselves, we knew we had to change the culture. You have to start with the people. If we didn't improve the culture on the mainframe and the idea that this could be different, that mainframe development could be different, that you could approach this with the same level of automation and technology and developer experience that they have on the distributed side, then you could very, very easily not succeed. You have to change all of those things. And it starts with people. You have to change the culture. You have to get everybody thinking about that mindset. And when we did this, we had to approach this from the top down and from the bottom up. So we had to approach this from top down. We had to get that buy-in from management. We had to get that buy-in from the leadership at our organization so that we could number one, just even bring these changes in. And number two, we had that mandate. We had that buy-in from the top that said, thou shalt. The company, the organization, the department, whatever, was not willing to live with two-speed IT anymore. So we had that buy-in and that mandate that gave us the ability to go in and start changing things. But you can't just do that. This can't just be something that comes up from the top down. It has to be something that also is approached from the bottom up. And what I mean by that is if I go in or anyone goes in and starts dictating to development, starts dictating to developers how they're going to do things, how they're going to do their work, then you're going to get resistance. They're going to kick against that. So you have to approach it from the ground up as well. You have to get the rank and file excited about the changes that you're doing. You're moving people's cheese. There's no two ways about that. You're moving people's cheese. So you have to get them excited about the changes that you're bringing up, the changes that you're going to be doing. And you need to identify those passionate explorers that are willing to go down this path with you and be your advocates. I can come in and describe this all day and all night, but as if I don't have those people that are doing the day-to-day work, if I don't have their buy-in, this is not going to be successful. So you have to make sure and approach this from the top down as well as the bottom up. Find those allies, find those passionate explorers that you need to work with for pushing this change out, and have them come in and work with you on pushing these changes out. Remember, the app, you're going to build this and you're going to build a platform and they're going to use it, and that's your responsibility. But these guys they have to use it day to day. They're on the hook for delivering those solutions. So you need to find those allies and work with them. And the biggest thing is focus on developer experience. Focus on developer experience and quick wins. Don't try to swallow the whole ocean. Don't try to push everything out all at once. Focus on what you can do today to make the developer and his job a delight. It sounds like a Hallmark card, but a happy developer is a productive developer. Making someone's job a delight means that they come in and they want to work. They're pushing out those changes. They really enjoy what they're doing. And getting that developer experience set is key. This is one of those things that really, it's easy to say, and it gets lost in translation sometimes. So the mainframe is a very sophisticated platform, but mainframe application development has been stuck in the 90s. And the tooling that is there was not sufficient for what they wanted to do, especially as we wanted to bring new developers in, especially as we wanted to bring recent new grads from engineering school who are using things like Eclipse and VS Code, and they're using Git on the main, or they're used to using Git. Putting them in front of a 3270 ISPF screen, it wasn't working out. Why would they want to do that when the developer experience on platforms like the cloud, mobile, things like that are a million times better? So as you're focusing on that developer experience, think about that. How do I bring tooling and the experience that the newer generation wants as they come onto the platform? How do I do that? Today, you see a mass exodus of people, not a mass exodus, but you see an exodus of people leaving the platform. You see the people who created this platform and made it awesome, they're starting to retire. If they're not already retired, they're in the midst of retiring, or they're looking at retiring in the next few years. So you have to make this developer experience amazing for that new generation that's coming in. And that's one of the things that we focused on. And I think the reason we were as successful as we were with our transformation was because we kept that focus on the developer experience and the people and work with them to bring them what they wanted. So how did we go about this? So what were the pieces that we did? So we've talked a little bit about, you have to identify you're the problem, and that's what we did. You have to start with the people. You have to make sure that you're changing the culture and the mindset and work with people for what they want. But then what were the specifics of it, right? So first thing we had to do was migrate off of our legacy tooling. You can't put agility and automation on top of tooling that is not built for it. If you're still using that same waterfall tool, it's not going to work. So we had to modernize our tooling. We had to modernize, and that's where we partnered with BMC CompuWare in order to come in and bring that agile tooling and put it in place. So we have to migrate off of those legacy tools, modernize the mainframe UI, make sure that concurrent development and future integrations were set up. We had to make sure that everything was good. And the biggest thing I can tell you is measuring. We had to measure. We had to take those baseline measurements. We had to understand what our KPIs were. And we had to do it as we were migrating off of our legacy systems onto the new ones. We absolutely positively had to make sure that we had a baseline measurement, because if I don't know where I'm at today, I'm not going to know how good I am tomorrow. Right? Let's use the analogy of losing weight. If I start losing weight today, but I don't weigh myself, how do I know how much I lost at the end of the week? So it's the same thing here. Take those baseline measurements, measure, 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 and use this as an opportunity to eliminate technical debt. A lot of teams, as we were migrating them off, use this as an opportunity to shuttle off code bases that hadn't been in real operation for decades. Use this as an opportunity to re-architect some of their solutions. That's something you have to do by feel. There's not really a measure for that, but it's also an opportunity to do that. So the next step was automating the pipelines and processes. Create those pipelines. Automate your CI. We were able to reuse the pipelines that we had built on the distributed side for our mainframe. There was really no reason to create something different. Now, under some of the underlying tasks, some of the pieces under the hood had to change out to specifically reach out to the mainframe to have some to handle how mainframe technology works. But those are implementation details. Those were not things that the development community or anyone using those pipelines really needed to get heavily involved with. So now with reusing the pipelines that we had on the distributed side, now we had mainframe developers and non-mainframe developers looking at the same interface, using the same pieces. And all of the things that we had done to automate processes like change management, quality scanning, automated testing, things like that, we could reuse those. We were able to reuse about 2/3 of the capabilities in the pipelines and just switch out those pieces that were mainframe specific. We were also able to establish quality gates. So quality gates were things that were really manual before, and we were able to automate those now. So we could absolutely guarantee that the code that was going down the pipe and being pushed into pre-prod and production was of a certain quality, had been scanned, was secure, everything was good. Automate common tasks, I already talked about, but those are small things. You would be amazed, 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, having to constantly context switch. All those things add up. And that's what, again, goes back to that developer experience and what makes working on this platform a delight. And again, measure, 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 measure every single thing that you're doing as you're going along. We measured everything because my boss at the time said, if you can't measure it, it doesn't exist. So we had constant KPIs and things that you could do. The last piece is optimize across platforms. You can integrate your mainframe with things like Git. We established webhooks. You can integrate cross-platform release management. Once you're set up and you have your stuff running through those automated pipelines, then at that point you could optimize across different platforms and you could start coordinating deployments between mainframe and non-mainframe systems. So you could push solutions to your cloud while at the same time and in the same cadence pushing those capabilities to your backend mainframe systems, your backend SORs. You can optimize across platforms, and that's exactly what we did. So we started getting more advanced. As once people got the pipeline set up and were understood, the team started seeing, what can I do with this? How can I make this better? What are some of the things that we can do? And that's how we were able to basically optimize those pipelines as we went through and get some of that. So automate, integrate, and measure. Those are the three things that you should be looking at. There is no reason on your mainframe that you cannot have all of the sophistication, if not more, than what is happening on the distributed side. And all of those things that the distributed developers have been enjoying for the last however many decades can now be had on the mainframe. And the organization that I work for, we did it. We're here. I'm here to tell you, having lived it, it absolutely did. So, what was the outcome of all this? What was the outcome of all these capabilities and things that we did? So, we recently partnered with Forrester to do a total economic impact of bringing DevOps to your mainframe. And what Forrester saw was you could reduce your administrative processes by 50+%. Now, where I was at, we were able to probably at least achieve 30+% of that. The elimination of administrative processes, make them 30-40% more efficient, depending on the team that you talk to. And we were still tuning that when I left. So implementing this fully, it's not going to be day one. You're immediately seeing, an administrative benefit. But as you tune this over time, 50% is probably your baseline that you'll see going up. Developer efficiency, it showed 175% developer efficiency. And we saw at least that much. Our developers were able to push through about anywhere between 40 and 60% more code, 40 and 60% more changes down their pipeline than ever before. Development velocity, same thing. Our development velocity increased by at least 3-4 fold. And again, that was when I left, and that was as we were continuing to tune the applications and tune the system. Business agility and ROI, that's the estimate that Forrester put out, $37.53 million benefits at their present value, 166% return on investment. By bringing these systems into place, we were able to probably be net positive within the first 2 years. And then from there, every dime that we saved was basically dollars in the pocket. So as you're going through, this is not going to be something easy. This is not going to be completely straightforward. It is going to take work and it is going to take time. But what these metrics will show you is that you can absolutely get benefit out of this. If you put in the sweat equity, it will absolutely pay off in the end. We were, just to use quoting one team as an example, they were able to go from about 30 deployments per quarter up to 37 after we launched to 45. And the last I checked, they were at 60 deployments per quarter and continuing to increase their velocity as they got more and more comfortable with the systems. If you do it, I can absolutely tell you the juice is worth the squeeze.
Does the technology matter? So is it like Jenkins, Azure DevOps, GitHub?
No, it does not at all. Whatever you have can be reused, can be repurposed for creating mainframe DevOps. That's the beautiful thing about it, because everything's exposed via APIs and because you build it in such a way to reuse that. If you're using GitHub Actions on your distributed side, then you can reuse that. If you have a Jenkins system, you can reuse that. It really doesn't matter.
Okay. Next one, what do you find that people miss when implementing this DevOps on the mainframe?
I think the biggest thing that people miss is they make it about the tooling and they make it less about the people. They bring a bunch of tooling in. They bring in new modern IDEs. They bring in new tools, and that's great. I mean, that's absolutely a part of it. But they miss the people part of this. They don't, like I said, you have to start with the people. They miss the people and culture side, and working with those people to bring them the capabilities that they want. So that's probably the biggest thing that I think people miss.
Yeah, and that's interesting because, like, the first question was about the technology, and what you're saying is that's not as much of an issue. It's more the people and
Right.
the tech. Yeah. Um, all right, and then okay, the next one is what are the unexpected benefits they find?
I would say the unexpected benefits that you find are, well, one of them so is training, right? Like one of the unexpected benefits that we found was it was a lot easier to bring people on board and get them onto the mainframe platform
Which,
because you
Tony, actually is the next question. How do we make younger developers interested in the mainframe? So keep going.
were perfect. So I think giving younger developers and along those unexpected benefits, giving them the tools that they're used to, giving them the capabilities. So when they're in college, they're using VS Code, they're using Eclipse, they're using a modern IDE with all the bells and whistles that comes with. They're used to using Git, whether it's GitHub or Bitbucket. I guarantee you they all have a GitHub account, right? So giving them those capabilities that they're familiar with makes the training and the excitement a whole lot better. If I'm able to develop on a mainframe and it looks and feels exactly the same way that it does when I'm developing for the cloud platform, then it's easier to have that conversation with somebody. Then it just becomes a conversation of COBOL. It makes COBOL or whatever language or technology you're using on the mainframe, it makes those things a lot easier. It makes that conversation better. So if you want to bring younger developers onto the platform and get them excited about it, then give them what they want. Make their developer experience day to day delight, and they will come. Like build it and they will come, like Field of Dreams.
That's great. So it's a way to get the younger developers involved in the mainframe because it's less of a hurdle.
Right.
And so that's really answered the other question about the unexpected benefits.
Yep.
Unfortunately, Tony, we are running out of time here, so let me wrap things up. So first off, thank you, Tony, so much.
You're welcome.
I hope everyone learned a lot. This session will be available on demand. If you're interested in learning more about BMC's mainframe solutions, our Amy Ops session is available on demand. And tomorrow, we'll have a session on mainframe security and the BMC Z Solutions product roadmap. Additional content is located in the resource area in the BMC Mainframe Solutions booth. We'll have technical account managers available to chat with you. Lastly, please fill out the survey on the session. We'd like to hear your feedback. So thank you, everyone, for attending, and thank you again, Tony.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate your time.